Welcome everyone to a casted game for Age of Empires 4, and today spawning in the southwest corner of the map playing in blue, we've got Kaiser Johann playing as the English, and his opponent in the northeast playing in red, we've got Anatand playing as the Malians. Welcome everyone to Gorge. I hope you guys are having a great morning, good afternoon, and as always, possibly a good evening, of course depending where you are in the world and what time you're watching this match, and hopefully we'll be in for a banger of a game. In fact, you know what? I can guarantee you it's going to be a good game. The reason why is because if it wasn't, this would not be making it over to YouTube. Wait a minute, Kaiser Johann. Oh, I thought for a second there. You thought for a second there he might have stolen that sheep. But alas, he doesn't get it. He's going to get this one though. Anatand is missing out on a couple of sheep. Now, one thing to talk about is Kaiser Johann as the English actually put down 3 farms. We have seen some builds where you just opt for 2, but he's going really aggressive with his scout, and it makes a lot of sense because in the most recent patch, the sheep now are not forming in clusters as such, so they're kind of solitary sheep all around the map as, okay, there's a cluster there, anyway. But they're a bit more spread out. So it feels like now you've got to keep your scout on the map a little bit longer to make sure you get as many sheep as possible. And of course, seeding 3 farms is certainly going to help with that. Now what's super interesting about this matchup is that it's always been a bit of an awkward one for the English, because the Malians have got some really direct counter units. You've got the javelin throwers for the longbows, the dontos versus the cavalry. The Malians certainly are a civilization of counter units, but I think what I really want to focus on in this cast today and talk about, that's fair enough, is the most recent patch. So the most recent patch, I think one of the biggest significant changes, really alters the way that the Malians can play. I think really about balancing civilizations, what you want to do is have multiple possible playstyles, multiple possible options, and the flexibility for some civilizations. Not always the case. You want to have some civilizations that are so targeted in what they do, but they do it so well that it's tough for the enemies to, really stop it. But the Malians feel like now they're becoming a bit more of a flexible civilization, which you might be thinking, well, how so? We typically see them go for a fast castle, the cow boom. The Grand Fulani Coral was always very popular to get to the castle age with that cow boom. But hear me out. So one of the big changes has been to the town center cost. As with many civilizations, and the Malians included, their town center costs 400 wood and 350 stone. But what's changed now is that the Malians town center actually costs 400 wood and 450 gold. Now you might be wondering, well, that's an extra 100 resources they have to pay. That is certainly correct, but it's a big difference from having to mine stone to go to gold instead. And the reason why is because the Malian's economy is already orientated around that. They've got the pit mine, they do have the Mansa quarry, which to be fair can get the passive stone as well, but everything is targeted towards gold generally for the Malians, especially when you think about cow booming. Cows, they cost gold. Certain units, javelin throws, they will be costing gold. Sofa, they'll cost gold. The feudal age, the castle age, aging up, it all costs gold. So the big significance is that, well, instead of going to stone, you just keep mining what you normally would have done in the first place. And so that saves you a mining camp cost of wood. But more importantly, in some ways, I guess, to think about it, is that it's a bit more safer. You've got passive generation, so a second town centered resource gathering is a little bit safer. The transition to it is a little less hard. If you're opening up with javelin throwers, sofa, you're kind of okay because you're already gathering food and gold in the first place. So from a macro perspective, it's a lot easier. Now, that point and that detail perhaps won't affect the top pro players as much because, their macro is going to be on point. They're pretty, they're going to figure it out. But as it happens, I think the Malians have been made a lot easier now to play in a way. You don't really have to focus so much on wood anymore, just gold and food, and you're pretty okay. Unless you're going to be making archers, which isn't the most commonly chosen unit for the Malians in the first place. Now, we've talked a lot about the Malians. Well, the English today are going to open up with the Abbey of the Kings, and are going to be able to get the king out nice and quickly, and that allows them typically to get multiple town centers. But it's an interesting one as well, because the English are a feudal age powerhouse themselves. They're a relatively flexible civilization, I would say, actually, because they can play an extended feudal age and do pretty well, second town center potentially. And they can play a good strong mid-game and late-game as it happens, of course, as well. But what really excites me about the Malians is that uniquely, they're a civilization that has direct counter units, right? The javelin thrower is really designed to be an anti-ranged unit. And it's just so powerful at doing that. And then you've got the Donsos that can actually throw their spear against cavalry. Very, very powerful. Now as well, don't forget Anatand. We have seen him rise to some great heights. In fact, he's risen right to the top of the ranked ladder. The 1v1 ranked ladder has Anatand sitting right on top of it. And so it's kind of great to see his games. Of course, a lot of players have been playing other games. Age of Mythology Retold, of course, which I have been checking out. I've been thinking about casting that. I think I probably would set up a new channel for that if I did. Let me know in the comment section below if you think you'd actually want to watch that. Of course, there are other casters already on the case. I feel like though it's a bit tricky for me because Age of Mythology is so detailed and there's a lot more options. And well, as I said, I mean, Age of Empires was a very complicated game, but it seems very easy for me now because I've been casting it for 2 to 3 years now, wherever since it came out. Really, there's a lot of experience there and understanding how the mechanics work. But Age of Mythology, very new game to me. Very exciting times for RTS in general, but I'm not sure. I feel like I kind of want to understand the game before I really start to cast it properly, but that will obviously take some time. Now the English are opening up with the stable and the archery range. So, interestingly enough, it's not actually going to be adding in a second town centre here, and it's going to go straight for a feudal kind of pressure. And it looks like Anatand doing the same. What can sometimes happen, as the Malians, is you maybe have to make a couple of units and then go to the castle age. But in fact, it looks like Kaiser Johann is going to force much more than that. Looks like Kaiser Johann wants to force Anatand into a pretty heavy feudal age investment, and he's going to want to save this pit mine if he can. But he's got Donso, so he gets a couple of throws of the spears already. I mean, it's a fight that potentially Kaiser could try and take if he micros it, but it's tricky, right? Because it's the direct counter unit, and yeah, it would be tough to really sort out. He accidentally killed his own sheep there, unfortunately. He's trying to torch down the pit mine as quickly as possible. Behind all of this, yeah, some farms are popping out for Kaiser Johann. He is getting iron undermesh as it happens as well, possibly worried about the threat of javelin throwers, and so he should be worried about that threat because we do have some queued up. Of course, the king doing some nice handy healing work with his cavalry. But a good few units now already popped out for the Malians, and he looks pretty on hand to defend. One thing to bear in mind with the Malians, they're a very reactive civilization. Because they've got such hard counters to enemy units, they can often just find out what the enemy is doing and get the counter units for it. They're specifically designed for that, and the great thing about having a potential for an extended feudal age, adding in a second town centre at some point for the Malians, is the fact that, well, not only are you countering what your enemy is doing, you're going to be able to buy time to be able to do that second town centre and scale that economy. We shall see, because the English have a really mean feudal age. They can really pack a punch, even with just one town centre, and pump out plenty of units. It's all going to come down to how much damage you can do against the Malian infrastructure. A couple of longbows going a bit too close for comfort. Now with javelin throwers added into the mix, going to be a bit tricky. Trying to get an outpost there, but it does lose a village. A couple of cavalry units coming in for Anatand. Will snipe of another village? No, maybe not. Backs away there. The network of castles in the town centre firing just a little bit too strong. He's going to snipe out one more villager though, so really good pickoffs there for Anatand. Trying to chase down the cavalry. Probably won't get too much out of this because of course the cavalry just, much faster than the Donsos. But yeah, really good opening and start here for Anatand. Already picking off 2 villagers. And it just shows you, it's actually the Malians that are being a bit more aggressive, which is a bit of a hard thing to watch actually if you're used to seeing the English being aggressive in the feudal age. Actually, they're getting really pegged back. I mean, a big part of it is because he didn't open Council Hall, so it didn't really have that, that timing with mass units early, but he has got the king to help his cavalry, and he did make some horsemen, which obviously got the faster mobility, so he would have been across the map a little bit quicker because of that. Gonzo's about to hit, but cavalry are putting away. What I love about this map as well is that it's often a map that has a lot of tug-of-war because of the central kind of pathway you have to each other, a direct route to each other. You can just kind of go back and forth and take some good trades, and it all comes down to how well we micro it and then how you push on. And what you don't want to do though is once you take a decisive fight and win, you definitely don't want to overcommit. Especially against a civilization like the English, which are a civ that often in many games is very snowbally. If you win a fight as the English, you're in a really good spot. You can really typically double down. But likewise, if you're playing against the English, you clear up the English army, and then it can be pretty devastating. And the English can sometimes get a bit caught out. Depending on the army composition, of course, and to be fair, maybe less relevant in this particular match because Kaiser Johann has gone for cavalry, so he can always retreat with those units because of the mobility and movement speed. The biggest problem really is when you've got mass infantry, which, if anything, is what the Malians have gone for today. Donsos, javelin throwers, looking to be a very strong army composition. And still a couple of cavalry on the west side, raiding with a couple of Sofa to keep some units at home for the English, but also try and pick off a villager or two if he can. Now, as the English retreat, I would like to say, by the way, a very big thank you for everyone who's been supporting the channel, whether it be on Twitch or YouTube. Guys, absolute legends. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Your support goes a long, long, long way. Even if it's just, giving the video a thumbs up or sharing the video with someone that you think might enjoy Age of Empires 4. Appreciate you guys a lot. Now, the thing about the Sofa is actually giving them good scouting information, but also always kind of giving a bit of a bug in the mind for Kaiser Johann. Does he go forward? Does he come back to defend? One thing that has to be brought into consideration, though, is that the English do have a good defensive network, so he's probably feeling a little less vulnerable than many other civilizations would. I think with the horseman, he might just try and chase us down and try and kill the Sofa whilst he can. Or maybe not. Gonna back off, and there is a bit of an incoming attack down the middle. Just going to have to be careful about this. Kaiser Johann goes back into the network of castles, so we'll have that attack speed, but the javelin throwers should be able to snipe out a lot of these units. And it looks like he's really well protected. Oh, I mean, those cavalry might be thinking about getting a wraparound, but there's a good number of Donsos here. It would be pretty risky to take the fight. The javelin throwers might micro their way out of the situation, try and pick off as many of the spearmen as possible to allow the cavalry to run on in. There's not that many cavalry units, though, for the Malians, and he is halfway through the middle lane of this gorge. He should be able to retreat on out of there. He takes the engagement there a little bit. Yeah, the spearman numbers starting to dwindle here for Kaiser Johann. That might just allow the Sofa to get involved, although actually a couple more spearmen came in from the east side. It's really going to come down to how well the javelin throwers can work this out. A couple of Sofa did go down there too, in fact, and yeah, I mean, Kaiser Johann's actually getting some good pickoffs, a good trade with longbows chasing. Of course, the English king has been healing up the cavalry as they charge. And Anatan doesn't really have much of a meat shield remaining. It's mostly just javelin throwers, which, to be fair, they are starting to build up a critical mass where they can destroy most units. It does take out the king, so Kaiser Johann will want to train another one if he wants that healing on the map again. We'll lose the spearman, and yeah, it's a hold here. The Malians have held, and it's this time Kaiser Johann is the one who has to back away. There's no way he can take a straight fight with these javelin throwers. 1.25 movement speed for the javelin throwers, 1.12. So this is, we'll talk about being caught on the map. I think the javelin throwers might pick off a longbowman or two before Kaiser Johann is able to get home. He's going to have some defender's advantage, and this is the kind of tug-of-war effect we talked about. Amanitant, if he doesn't judge this right, he might be walking into a lot of more reinforcement units coming from the English. And bear in mind, on the minimap, we can see there are 3 pit mines involved for the Malians, so passive gold generation should be pretty good. Not too shabby. Couple of horsemen going to be pushing on through. Maybe try and poke and prod those javelin throws. Not as many Donsos as he would like, but 2 would be enough to deal with just 1 horseman at the moment. Another one is charging on 2. Those spearmen might be caught out quite a bit. I mean, he's using the longbows to the maximum effect in terms of range. I think he's trying to snipe out as many of the Donsos as possible, to be fair, because it's quite difficult to snipe out javelin throws. It's a bit of a, yeah, certainly tug-of-war, right? This time, it might be Kaiser Johann now walking into the reinforcements from Manhattan. He's going to back away. It definitely is a tug-of-war, this one. A lot of villagers on the deer camp, and I mean, do you know what? Anatan could actually afford a second town centre here. He's got the 400 wood. He's got more than enough gold to get the second town centre, but I'm sure he's microing this in the front lines. Donsos should take out the cavalry. He's actually looking pretty good here for Anatan. There's mostly longbows. Those longbows will pretty much melt to the javelin throws. There is a king. Just try and do as much damage as possible. And it's going to get some good value out of this. Has Anatan kind of overshot the mark here a little bit? Can pick off a spearman or two, but still relatively even. The distraction value is a bit high here for Kaiser Johan after all. And look at that, it will be a second town center here for Anatan, and this is where things become really interesting for the Malians, right? Because he didn't have to focus on stone at all, and he's quite happy to get that second town center. He was always gathering food and gold anyway. It's quite easily done. Going over to the D camp as well. Another thing to talk about whilst it's not necessarily relevant now because he does have a good number of units. When gold is your main resource as the Malians... wait, when did he lose that? He lost a pit mine there? I didn't realise he lost a pit mine. Either way, that happened. Yeah, certainly having the focus on gold only means that you have just one resource that you need to make sure you gather and protect. Having said that, you know, having multiple pit mines is dotted around the map, so different locations. But as long as you can secure an 8,000 gold vein and keep mining, you should be in a good spot. And of course the villager count will start to escalate, but we do have 50 on either side more or less. The question is whether Kaiser Johan will scout that anytime soon and think about getting a second town center himself. No real kind of clear picture of that happening. We've got plenty of farms coming out, so he should have a really good food gathering income. Yeah, look at that. He's got 24 on food. So 10 less than the Malians, but he's kind of keeping up on the food gathering, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Yeah, some palisades coming on the right side. And I like the idea for Anatan. He wants to protect this 8,000 gold vein and make sure he has continuous access to it. I'm kind of curious to see if he's thinking about the castle age. And if so, what landmark does he go for? Does he go for the Furumba garrison? Does he go for the... Well, I mean, he's got to, really. There's no reason to go for the Grand Filani Coral. There are no cattle ranches. Maybe the Furumba garrison would be pretty handy because it's going to need to pump out units pretty soon, considering what's happening on the map. Going to come with a ram rush here, Kazuyan. Oh, didn't finish this round. He will now, but delays him by a couple of seconds. Nothing too major. Good chunk of an army, but he's got to make it count for something, right? He's on 1 TC versus 2. So it's got to do some damage to be able to keep up in the game. Only 2 rams for now, though. A couple of free hits with the javelin throws, but obviously they don't do too much to the battering ram. It's going to need melee units to try and get rid of them. Ideally, oh, he snipes out the king with one fell swoop. I mean, this is the thing. With this number of javelin throws, it's so powerful. He's even taken out the man-at-arms. Sure, they are early man-at-arms, but make no mistake about it. They're pretty tanky, and these javelin throws are just ripping through them really quickly. And we might lose a archery range, which is actually a pretty big deal. They're not cheap to make these production buildings. He's fighting underneath the town center, though. There's 15 villagers garrison inside, and sure, Kaiser Johan will get some infrastructural damage, but the question is, how durable is this army? Really able to push on through? I don't think he can. I mean, these man-at-arms are getting one-shotted by these javelin throws, which is crazy to think about. Longbows diving on a little bit, but they're not going to survive too long against the arrow fire from the town center. Sure, he's keeping a lot of the economy idled here for Anatan. He's taken down one archery range, about to take down the barracks, so nice damage coming out, but it's not sustainable, right? I mean, Kaiser Johan's going to lose all of his army, and if he does, I mean, he will, it seems, Anatan will have a good standing army of javelin throws then to push the English with. Yeah, Kaiser Johan was thinking about going for sort of an all-in push here, but it's not going to be enough. Javelin throws, they just counter almost everything, it seems, at this point. Villagers coming out with the torches now, and the rams won't be able to... He might get one staple out of this. I mean, if the villagers repair, he'd be fine, but kind of curious to see if he gets in the end. It's going to be close. Anatan, repair. Hello, repair. Anatan, no, repair. He's going to lose the stable, isn't he? Jeez. Oh, he's repairing. He's repairing. All right. Disaster averted. It's funny how you can save a burning building with a hammer. No water involved, but it is what it is. Anatan now pushing on through. Just trying to pick off units if he can. There's a couple of cavalry, and that's one thing he's got to be careful about, right? Horsemen. There aren't that many of them, though. As I say, that maybe man-at-arms is something you should be worried about as well, but just the sheer number of javelin throws, he's able to one-shot them, I think. Which is kind of crazy to think about. It feels quite hard, actually, for the English to think of. I mean, how do you deal with this number of javelin throws? Maybe Castle Age mangonels? The moment you try and save up for Castle Age, you might start to get overrun, because you need resources to make the units to survive. That's what Kaiser Johan is barely doing at this point. Man-at-arms are starting to get some value. They managed to bridge the gap, but To say that, the last one does fall. Got one more following in. He's a brave lad. Anatan now ahead on village account, ahead on military, and of course that second town centre coming when it did has made him have a stronger economy. By quite a margin. Although the gather rate on the farms is looking pretty healthy. But neither player thinking about a castle age at this point. This is very different from the usual Malian playstyle. No fast castle, no Grand Fulani Coral, no cow booming. The horsemen are going to be able to gap close a little bit. Has Anatan overshot here? I think it could be okay. He's going to need to take the trade. Sofa are tanking for him. He's going to allow the gem throws to get some damage output. He needs to take out the man-at-arms if he can. And the cavalry. King goes down again. Not for the first time. I mean, I think he wins this fight in the end. Would you believe the jam throw is just so powerful at this stage? He needs to take out... I mean, he's going to focus on the longbows, actually. It's understandable. You want to kind of get those numbers down if you can. And Kazuyohan kind of standing and fighting, which I don't quite like. It's kind of hard to take out these jam throws. He's backing away now, though, Anatan. I'm not entirely sure why. He's got a lot of units. He's even added in a couple of Musafadi warriors, which will be great against the man-at-arms. Of course, not so great against the longbows. Going to tank it with the Sofa, and he's going to back away. I guess he's just microing this as much as possible to get rid of that front line. There wasn't much of it for the English. Of course, not having any network of castles extension, no forward outpost for the English, kind of hurts them in a way, but it's difficult to achieve when you've got these number of range units. They can typically snipe out villages trying to build outposts. Running in with a couple of those man-at-arms. The Sofa now might get on top of the longbows. There aren't that many spearmen, but Anatan, he's not rushing anything. And it's understandable. He's on 2 TCs, right? So you might be thinking, why is Anatan not taking a fight? Well, you can. You don't have to take the most efficient trades as long as it's fairly optimal. Being on 2 town centers, you know you're always going to be ahead on village account. But I don't know if actually Anatan knows about if there's any possible second town center. To be fair, he was pretty active with his Sofa, so he probably does have a good idea of what's going on in the English economy. At least earlier in the game. Anatan now starting to build a villager lead, and that will translate into a better army shortly, I would have thought. That's a lot of gold he's got. Where's he gathering from? Oh, here it is. Alright, some all-important upgrades coming in for both players as it happens. Interesting, he's actually going for arrow slits. In an awkward spot. There's nothing... I guess there's production buildings, right? He doesn't want that area to get pushed, which is possibly where Kazuyohan would need to go if he wants to see the game out in feudal age. And you know what? The Malians, you can see the resources. They are thinking about castle age. Oh, I love this play. Bring in a couple of Sofa. And Kazuyohan, he doesn't want to ignore it. He pulls the army back. And the reason why this is so important is because... Well, I mean, I thought he was going to go for the castle age, but it just pumped out a lot of more units in the queue. He was floating a bit of food. Well, this is huge value. Getting a couple more villagers. 2 at least. Possibly a third. Should get a third. Oh no, the woodline villager does get the third and backs on out of there. But yeah, this is nice play. It's forcing the English into reactions. Whereas the English probably would like to be on the front foot and doing damage. Instead, they're having to head home and defend. But as I say that, he's looking to get a couple of rams on the front line. Not taking the bait fully. Oh, good body blocking on the villagers. This could be a massacre. He's killed 11 already. Sofa have gotten so much value so far in the game. And it is going to be the Frimba garrison. The Malians are changing everything. Complete meta switch. It's incredible how one change and the cost of one structure can do all of this. But I like it, right? Frimba garrison just doubling down on the fact that the Malians, they just need gold. And that will supply them with a lot of military, a lot of everything, a lot of food, a lot of cows. Town centers as it happens now. But I wonder whether English will push as soon... I mean, he's going to push anyway, to be fair. But no, with the Frimba garrison coming up the castle age, it might give Kazuyohan another feeling, hey, I need to do some damage. And go to the castle age myself. It looks like he's going to have a relatively similar time-ish. He's going to go to the castle age himself. And I suspect he's going to go with the King's Palace. It probably makes a lot of sense too, because he's got to catch up in the village account. Whether he knows about the second town centre, actually, I'm not so sure. In fact, we could chat, couldn't we? He doesn't know about it, as far as I can tell. Alright, that's a lot of village and gold. I mean, he needs the gold for the Frim garrison, right? This could be a pretty devastating if Kaiser Johan targets this area. He's starting to build a couple more rams. And the question is, does he wait for the upgrades? I think you kind of have to, right? Kind of have to wait for the upgrades before you go for... we're going to lose a ram here for free. There's the age up and, you know, upgrades coming in already. Imported armor, blacksmith upgrades, wedge rivets against the longbows. This is going to be a bit dicey for the English, right? I think the English have to head back home. He's got to defend, got to get that castle age and their own tech ups. In fact, he has got the castle age, just needs the tech up upgrades. Can I get the man at arms and the veterancy on the longbows? He needs it now. Can't take the fight just yet. I think you need the veteran longbows here. Oh, he's going to take it. Oh, he's going to take it. I mean, he's got Nebuchadnezzar castles, I guess. He's got man at arms coming in as the upgrade, which should be pretty strong as it happens. But the Sofa should be able to trade relatively well. Well, there's a couple of good number of spearmen for the English, so this could be dicey for the cavalry for man at hand. But he's got a good number of javelin throwers in the back line, sniping up as much as he possibly can. King getting involved for Kaiser Johan, and do you know what? The numbers are way looking too good. I mean, look at that. 69 military to 50. Anatan should be winning this fight, and there's just way too much here. He's fighting with villagers as it happens as well, Kaiser Johan. A couple of them anyway. Yeah, spearman numbers not looking as good as they once were. King goes down. This is looking devastating. Anatan should be overrunning. It felt like maybe the fight just came in a little bit too early, prematurely. Veterancy comes in now for some of the units for the English, and the fight is already over. And that's so rough, taking a fight before there's all important upgrades. I mean, he possibly could have held on a little bit longer, you know. Okay, sure, he would have to abandon a couple of farms, but now he's dealing with 14 units at his disposal against 67. And this looks like it's going to be an uphill battle for me. I mean, ultimately, Malian is going to die this. Keep the town centre idled, or at least the villagers idled. 15 of them underneath the town centre. And the economy is going to be massively hit. A lot of farms vacant now, not being worked. And this is not looking good at all for Kaiser Johan. He's got the King's Palace to bounce back, maybe, but how does he deal with 63 military? I don't think he does. And there it is, gentlemen. Kaiser Johan, he taps out. A great game of Age of Empires for back and forth, but some really good strategic talking points. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We'll be having plenty more Age of Empires 4 casted games. Take care, and see you next time.